While the legislature plays a vital role in Nigeria's democracy, serving as the foundation of the country's governance system, concerns about corruption in the process have been raised by several analysts. Since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999, the National Assembly has been instrumental in shaping the nation's laws and policies. The National Assembly is a bicameral legislature consisting of the Senate and the House of Representatives. The legislature's primary function includes lawmaking, representation, oversight and budgeting. However, the legislature faces numerous challenges. One major challenge is corruption, which undermines the integrity of the legislative process. Party politics and self-serving behavior also hinders the effectiveness of the legislature. Now, analysts say that to strengthen democracy in Nigeria, the legislature must promote transparency, accountability, and effectiveness in its proceedings, as well as exercise its oversight powers without interference. To discuss these issues in more details, we are now joined by Coordinator at Yaga Africa Center for Legislative Engagement, Dr. Sam Ogwuche. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get fully into this discussion, I'd like you to give us your own assessment, of the role that the legislature has played so far in sustaining Nigeria's democracy, especially the current legislature as it is.
Okay, the legislature generally is the symbol of democracy worldwide. If you look at the constitutional framework of Nigeria, you will discover that the three basic functions that the legislature performs are key to the survival of every democracy. Now, lawmaking is one of them, oversight is another one, and representation. If you look at the lawmaking process of the National Assembly, you agree with me that the National Assembly has really performed, up to expectation in the Fourth Republic. New laws have come on board. Existing laws have been repealed and amended. And then we have made progress, a lot of progress. Even the constitutional framework, our constitution has been amended since 1999, successfully amended, I think, about 5 times. Then we have continued to make progress in terms of legal framework in all dimensions. And then oversight again, you will see that the legislature has been able to oversee activities of the executive. And that's why we liken oversight to policing activities. That the executive that is saddled with the responsibility of implementing or enforcing laws, government policies, should be seen to be performing creditably. So the legislature goes out there to ensure that funds appropriated are expended in the spirit of the Appropriation Law or Appropriation Act, and then again that government policies are in line with the Constitution and that nobody, violates constitutional provisions. And representation too, you see the plethora of motions being moved at the floor, both at the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so these three basic functions have been performed in the Fourth Republic, and this assembly, the 10th Assembly, has also done very well. Just yesterday, the House of Reps, a committee went on oversight, I think on the Nigerian Navy also. And it is commendable. So the legislature is out there to ensure that the democracy that we practice survives. That is why we always say that you can have a government without the legislature, but definitely you cannot have democracy without the legislature.
Are we achieving all of these things you talked about? Is the legislature actually performing all of those duties you just talked about? Because yes, we know that there have been some comments in different quarters as to how the legislature is upholding democracy in Nigeria. For instance, recently, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, talked about some of the challenges that the legislature is facing, saying that there is no continuity in terms of how they are being represented, that in the 10th Assembly, 281 new members were elected out of 360. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, that is a different thing. Obviously, the legislature is plagued, by many factors. One of them is what the Right Honorable Speaker mentioned, high turnover. When you see a legislature that has about 80-something% turnover, then it is worrisome. Now you have a new crop of legislators who are new to legislative practice and procedure. Some are coming to learn for the first time what a bill is. Some are coming to learn the rudiments of oversight for the very first time. So in that case, you cannot have optimal performance. You cannot have the best from them. You continue to train them, and that's why there are institutions that support the legislature. So you see training, capacity building for the legislators to be able to know what they are actually at the assembly to achieve. Now you have high turnover. When you have a new set of legislators, they go on oversight. It is difficult for them to even know how to approach oversight. That's why it is worrisome that those who have acquired legislative experience over the years are unable to return, mostly because of executive interference. There are some legislators, many of them, who did not return to the assembly, not because they did not perform well, but obviously because they fell out with their governors. So until the legislature is insulated, is weaned from the executive, you will continue to have that challenge. And again, we also have other problems that confront the legislature. Many of them, you talk about funding, you talk about issues like capacity building, you talk about societal expectations, what the public want the legislators to do. Nigerians don't even know, many of them don't even know the boundary between executive and legislative functions. So you expect your legislator to come to your aid when you want to take a second wife. When you want to go for naming ceremony, you ask for your legislator. You ask. So people now expect them to perform functions that are not theirs. So this also pushes them into many things that are not supposed to be their function. So until we begin to have legislators who are adequately equipped and a society that is adequately enlightened to be able to hold them accountable, that's why representation is a core function. We advise, and it is the case, that they have constituency offices where their constituents can go and make their points and make their demands. It makes them to be in touch with the people, to be able to represent them adequately. Where there is a natural disaster, for example, how does the government come to know? It is through advocacy, through representation by the legislators. So all these things are put together. We agree that, yes, these are the core functions they are performing, but not without challenges.
Well, thank you very much for that. You said that we have to win the legislature from the executive, but I'm wondering how we will be able to achieve that, with godfatherism so deeply entrenched in our politics here in Nigeria.
Yes, it is achievable, and before we achieve that, we will have to ensure that there is this moral reorientation on the part of Nigerians. Well, look at party financing, for example. Godfatherism that you mentioned is a major factor, and this we have seen in almost every part of the country. So if someone is there funding the activities of a political party, knowing very well that we don't have independent candidates, then you cannot adequately completely rule away godfatherism. And again, when you have political parties that have their agenda, at the end of the day, you will also look at the kind of presidential system of government that will operate. If you look at how the constitution is, you will see that there is, as it is now, no way the legislature can declare independence completely from the executive. But we can do it. And that is why, over the years, there have been this clamor for financial autonomy for the legislature, not just at the National Assembly. The National Assembly is not much of a problem. But even if you go to the state assemblies, the problem is more pronounced at that level. And that is why you see state assembly members knowing that, yes, the governor is on the wrong path, yet they don't have the courage to call him to order.
Well, Dr. Sam,
if you don't have the courage and you are the vanguard.
Dr. Sam, you know, one
Yes,
advocacy that a lot of people have been clamoring for is the fact that this office, that's the legislative office, has to be less attractive so that those that are going into office are going into work and serve the people and not just go to dip their hands into the cookie jar. For instance, we heard the Abia North Senator Ogwuche saying that he earns 14 million as his monthly salary and that is not even enough. And, you know, that has generated a lot of comments from different people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I'm not privy to what the legislators earn, but if Senator Ogwuche said that it's 14 million, and you look at the demands from his senatorial district, what he's expected to do, you agree that 14 million cannot take him home. He will have to spend his own money you know, to be able to meet the demands of his people. Yes, people are saying that the legislature should be made less attractive. Others are saying it should be part-time. But whatever angle you look at it from, legislative functions are legislative functions. Do we want people who go there on part-time basis to perform legislative functions, or the current you know, framework is okay? I believe that whichever way we go, we need to strengthen the legislature. Whichever way we go. As it is now, there are...
Dr. Sam Ogwuche, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we are completely out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. He's the coordinator, Yaga Africa Center for Legislative Engagement.